On June 10, 2025, a significant event unfolded in the long-simmering conflict across the Middle East. For the first time, the Israeli Navy conducted a direct seaborne attack against targets in Yemen. The strike focused on the port city of Hodeidah, a critical area controlled by Houthi forces. This action represented a major shift in Israel's military strategy, moving beyond its previous reliance on airstrikes to project its power deep into the Red Sea region. The attack signals an escalation in the ongoing tensions between Israel and the Iran-backed Houthi movement, which had been launching attacks against Israel for many months, creating a new and unpredictable naval front in a complex regional struggle. The city of Hodeidah is not just any location. It is a vital lifeline for a country that has been devastated by years of civil war and a severe humanitarian crisis. Most of the food, medicine, and other essential supplies for millions of Yemenis enter through this very port. The Israeli operation, therefore, immediately raised concerns about the potential impact on the civilian population. The attack was not carried out in a vacuum, but was the latest chapter in a series of retaliatory actions and counteractions that have characterized the conflict. This naval strike brought the fight directly to the Houthis' doorstep, in a way that previous encounters had not, changing the dynamics of the confrontation. This event marked a departure from Israel's established methods for confronting threats from Yemen. Until this point, Israel's responses to Houthi missile and drone launches had been primarily through aerial means. By using its navy, Israel demonstrated a new capability and a willingness to engage its adversaries over vast distances at sea. This strategic decision showcases a confidence in its naval assets and sends a clear message about the reach of its military. The operation was carefully planned to strike at what Israel identified as key military infrastructure, aiming to disrupt Houthi operations without triggering a full-scale war, a delicate and dangerous balance to maintain. Among the specific targets of this unprecedented naval strike was the Galaxy Leader, a vehicle carrier ship that had become a symbol of the Red Sea conflict. The vessel, which is British-owned and operated by a Japanese company, was hijacked by Houthi commandos in a dramatic helicopter raid back in November 2023. Since its capture, the ship had been anchored near Hodeidah, where the Houthis reportedly turned it into a local tourist attraction and a potent symbol of their defiance. Hitting the Galaxy Leader was a pointed message from Israel, aimed directly at undermining a Houthi propaganda victory and demonstrating that assets seized by the group were not beyond Israel's reach. The execution of the attack was a remarkable display of naval capability, carried out over an immense distance. The Israeli Navy's Sa'ar 6 class corvettes, some of its most advanced warships, were central to the operation. These missile boats launched long-range guided missiles from a position hundreds of kilometers away in the Red Sea. The total distance from Israel to Hodeidah is approximately 1,800 kilometers, or about 1,100 miles. This made it the farthest offensive operation ever publicly confirmed to have been conducted by Israeli Navy missile boats. The precision required to hit specific targets from such a range highlights the sophisticated technology and planning involved in the mission. Before the missiles were even launched, the Israeli Defense Forces took a preliminary step. A day prior to the strike, the IDF issued an online warning for the ports of Hodeidah, as well as the nearby ports of Ras Isa and Salif, urging people to evacuate the areas. This action suggests an attempt to minimize civilian casualties, a common practice in modern warfare, though the effectiveness of such warnings in a place like Yemen can be debated. The warning also served as a clear signal of impending military action. It put the Houthis and the international community on notice that Israel was preparing to respond to what it described as relentless aggression from Yemeni territory. The weapons used in the attack were designed for precision, aiming to hit specific military infrastructure while limiting broader destruction. The long-range guided missiles fired by the Sa'ar 6 corvettes are capable of striking targets with a high degree of accuracy. The objective, as stated by Israeli officials, was to damage the port's capacity to support military activities, which Israel alleges includes the transfer of weapons and the launching of attacks. By focusing on docks and other infrastructure, the strike was intended to be surgical. However, in a crowded and vital port area, even the most precise strikes carry the risk of unintended consequences for civilian life and humanitarian operations. Following the attack, Information about the extent of the damage was scarce and contested. The Israeli military did not release any footage or detailed assessments of the strike's impact on the port or the Galaxy leader. On their side, Houthi-controlled media outlets quickly downplayed the significance of the operation, claiming that it had no effect and caused no significant damage. There were no immediate official reports of casualties from either side. This lack of clear information created a vacuum, leaving observers to piece together the outcome from satellite imagery and unofficial reports, a common feature in the information warfare that accompanies modern military conflicts. Israel's official justification for the naval strike was clear and direct. The government stated that the operation was a necessary response to the continuous and escalating attacks launched by the Houthis against Israeli territory. The night before the naval action, another Houthi missile had been fired toward Israel, the latest in a long series of such attempts. Since November 2023, the Houthis had launched over 40 ballistic missiles and dozens of drones at Israel, with one attack in July 2024, tragically killing a civilian in Tel Aviv. Israeli leaders framed the Hodeidah strike as a defensive measure aimed at degrading the Houthis' ability to continue these attacks and protect Israeli citizens. The operation was also designed to send a broader strategic message. Israel aimed to deepen the damage to the military use of the port, which it has long asserted is a hub for Houthi military logistics. According to Israeli intelligence, the port is not just used for humanitarian aid but also serves as a key transit point for receiving weapons and technology, allegedly from Iran. By striking Hodeidah's infrastructure, Israel intended to disrupt these supply lines and weaken the Houthis' operational capacity. The attack was a powerful signal that Israel would not hesitate to act directly against the infrastructure it believes supports threats against its sovereignty, no matter how distant. Following the strike, Israeli officials issued stern warnings to the Houthi leadership. Defense Minister Israel Katz declared that Israel's long arm in the air and at sea will reach everywhere, a clear threat of further action. He also warned of a potential naval and aerial blockade of Houthi-controlled areas if the attacks on Israel did not cease. This tough rhetoric underscored the seriousness with which Israel views the Houthi threat. The strike on Hodeidah was presented not as a one-time event, but as the beginning of a new policy of direct and forceful confrontation, meant to establish a new deterrent against the group's actions in the Red Sea and beyond. The Houthis, for their part, have consistently claimed that their attacks on Israel and on international shipping are acts of solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza. This narrative has been central to their regional positioning and domestic propaganda. The Israeli strike provided them with another opportunity to reinforce this message, portraying themselves as victims of Israeli aggression while standing up for the Palestinian cause. The immediate aftermath saw no reduction in their defiant rhetoric. This sets the stage for a cycle of escalation, where each action by one side is met with a reaction from the other, increasing the risk of a wider and more destructive conflict in the region. The attack on Hodeidah port immediately raised alarms among international aid organizations. Hodeidah is the single most important entry point for humanitarian aid into Yemen, a nation where over 2/3 of the population relies on external assistance for survival. Any damage to the port's cranes, storage facilities, or docks threatens to disrupt the flow of food, water, and medical supplies. Aid agencies warn that even a temporary halt in operations could have devastating consequences, potentially worsening food insecurity and disease outbreaks for millions of vulnerable Yemenis. The strike placed the delicate balance of humanitarian logistics in a precarious position, with innocent lives hanging in the balance. Beyond the immediate humanitarian impact, the Israeli naval strike has significant implications for global trade. The Houthi attacks on commercial vessels since late 2023 had already severely disrupted shipping through the Red Sea, a critical artery for international commerce that handles about $1 trillion in goods annually. Many shipping companies had rerouted their vessels around Africa, a longer and more expensive journey. This Israeli military action, while targeting the Houthis, adds another layer of instability to an already volatile maritime region. It could lead to higher insurance premiums and further deter shipping companies from using the Red Sea route, affecting global supply chains and consumer prices worldwide. For the people of Yemen, the Israeli strike introduces a new and powerful actor into their country's prolonged conflict. While the civil war has largely been a domestic and regional struggle, direct military action by Israel brings a new dimension to the fighting. This could complicate peace efforts and further entrench the positions of the warring factions. The daily lives of Yemenis, already marked by poverty and uncertainty, now face the added threat of becoming caught in the crossfire of a larger geopolitical confrontation. The attack on the port, a symbol of both survival and conflict, underscores the heavy price civilians often pay in such disputes. Looking ahead, the Hodeidah strike has set a new precedent. It has proven Israel's capability and willingness to use its naval power far from its own shores. The key question now is what happens next. Will the Houthis retaliate with more intense attacks on Israel or on shipping, prompting further Israeli military action? Or will the strike serve as a deterrent, forcing the Houthis to reconsider their strategy? The situation remains highly volatile, with the potential for further escalation that could draw in other regional and global powers. The events of June 10, 2025 have opened a new chapter in the Red Sea conflict, one whose final pages have yet to be written.